Rex, talk to me a little bit about, just if I may, get a little personal with you.
Yeah.
What's the growing edge for you right now in your life? What's God got you on the hook about these days?
Yeah.
Do you mind sharing what you can share with us?
I don't mind at all.
I just respect you so much. I think you're a wonderful man of God, and I know you strive to listen to the Lord and pray, and I just appreciate it if you maybe would tell us.
Well, Steve, I'm like every other American. I love to talk about myself. So
enough of me talking about you. Yeah.
Thanks for letting me speak to that. I've never been more excited about the kingdom of God, and I recently shared that with some of my key staff people at Grace. There's never been a more exciting day as far as Grace Fellowship goes, but also in my own personal life. Now, I don't consider myself a spiritual giant at all. In fact, people think, "Oh, you must be a really great guy, a really spiritual guy." No one is more shocked than me that God is using me.
Yeah.
God is using me, and I think it's just one of those deals.
Well, that may be a critical part of the reason why He is.
God uses the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. I mean, it astounds me that God is doing what He's doing.
Yeah.
But I would say this, God is growing me on a professional level in this way. He's using our current leaders to move us into a more multicultural church. We have a huge growth in ethnic diversity right now, and that presents wonderful possibilities and glorious challenges at the same time.
Just going to bookmark you for 1 second.
Yeah.
You expect to have 4 campuses fully functional in 2013. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That's the plan. There actually could be 3 new ones on the map in 2013, but we could have 5 fully functioning campuses by the end of that year. But there will be at least 4 by God's grace. And so that is changing who we are. We're having to raise up so many new leaders and so many new staff people. But it's helping us to take the gospel into new areas. I personally believe that planting a new church is one of the most effective ways to evangelize. You start in a new community and suddenly people have a new gospel witness right in their own backyard, and they have a place, those who get involved, have a place to invite their friends. And it's close, it's easy to get to, and it's exciting. So organizationally, this is stretching me, and I need it.
That's huge.
I've got more on my plate than I've ever had, more responsibility than ever. I'm growing as a leader, and I'm thankful for that. Wouldn't it be horrible, Steve, wouldn't it be horrible to be bored as a leader? Have you ever met any leaders that are just bored?
I think I've
They're
been
bored.
that leader from time to time.
I can't imagine how dull that would be to get up every day and
no,
just
you don't want to be stuck there.
Bored. I am not bored.
Right.
If anything, I'm pretty much over my head right now. On a personal level, here's the deal. You asked for it.
Yeah, I did.
Here's the lowdown on me personally. I have always been a very disciplined guy when it comes to certain spiritual disciplines. Like when it comes to the Word, for instance. I'm in the Word every day. I'm really, really disciplined with that. I love the Word. I memorize a lot of Scripture. I rehearse it. I read a lot. I read a lot of books. But the area that I've always felt like almost handicapped, almost like, wow, I must have a spiritual disability here, is on sort of really pressing into God in prayer. I am lousy with that. I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. Maybe you can be my therapist here and help me.
I appreciate the honesty.
But I am lousy when it comes to prayer. So there's where I'm desiring to grow. And the main thing I'm doing is praying. I'm trying to grow in prayer by praying. I do read some books about it, but I think the main way to grow is probably just to do it.
No, that's right.
Just to do it.
Yeah.
But I've never felt that I was much of a prayer.
Yeah.
I've always shined more in other areas. But I desire to grow in prayer, and that's where I feel a conviction.
Yeah.
Because I really in my heart believe that the measure of a spiritual leader is how are they relating to God in prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really, really appreciate the honesty. This is something, of course, we're trying to address with spiritual formation ministry. the truth is that in my experience, both as a mentor and as a teacher of formation, most pastors are exactly where you are, although probably much more reluctant to be that honest about it, sadly. But when you do hear pastors' hearts, that is sadly often the case, that they are not satisfied with their inner life, that I think there is a tendency through our training and everything to become comfortable with learning. That can become a sweet spot, you know. And so this is important. I spoke to a pastor last night in Connecticut for an hour or so on the phone. And he's a young man from a background very similar to yours, and said he is finding tremendous grace in some of the classic disciplines of the historic church, some of the orders of prayer that, and prayer disciplines that are just as old as can be, but that were not normally a part of his background and his training. You know, sometimes we can find grace by drilling in a different spot.
As you well know, Steve, in the evangelical tradition, with all of its great strengths, it has some weaknesses. And one of those weaknesses is we have not done very well, I would say, historically, in the short history of the evangelical church. We've not done real well with things called soul care, taking care of ourselves, leading ourselves wisely. We've not done real well with the classic spiritual disciplines. We're so action-oriented. Get out there and do it. Set that goal. Get into church growth. Sometimes our souls shrivel up. And I think it's a day when the Spirit of God may be giving us a bit of a wake-up call.
Yes.
So many moral failures, so many leaders just kind of dying in the middle of the job and just going, I just have no wind anymore. I just can't do this anymore. Well, I think one of the answers to that is soul. What's going on in your soul? And when people begin to address that, sometimes they're finding these rivers of living water. They're finding that, wow, there's a whole inner spiritual life here that I've been ignoring.
In a whole new place. Yeah. We had Adele Calhoun in here this summer. And she's a gifted author, there's a couple of books, but she's written a book that I regard as a classic. I tell pastors it's a must-have, and it's the Spiritual Disciplines Handbook. And it's exactly that. Adele will tell you, it's not designed to be read from cover to cover on your nightstand, but it's a handbook which explores different disciplines for different seasons of life, and it's an amazingly wonderful resource. I recommend it to anybody. In pastoral mentoring, my mentor taught me, and then I in turn followed suit. At some point in every conversation with a pastor, we was just look him dead in the eye and say three words: how's your soul? And I have literally had pastors look at me. I remember one very gifted and wonderful young pastor, a fine man of God, looked right back at me, and he paused for a long time, and he said, that is the first time in my life anyone has ever asked me that. And I've never been able to forget that. The beauty of the honesty of his response, but then the implications of the fact that he could live a whole life and be a very experienced and fairly effective pastor, and have never encountered another Christ follower lovingly asking him, how is your soul?
And that's a glorious invitation, not only for candor, honesty, but it's an invitation to really pause and say, yeah, a soul? Do I really have a soul?
Father,
or am I just a body who does things?
Yeah.
No, you're a living soul.
Yeah.
And you need to be paying attention to that.
Yeah. We were made for him and made for fellowship with him. And I think sometimes we deprive ourselves of the source of life. And the irony is we do it in the name of the Lord. We do it in the interest of serving God. And it's a great paradox and contradiction, and it's sad. And I'm with you. I certainly hope that this is something that I think we sense something of a breeze about right now. People are asking questions like this. There's a growing interest in spiritual formation, classic spiritual disciplines, and I think that's one of the best things we've seen in a long time.
To me, it's an exciting movement. It's an exciting time in the life of the church. In spite of all the negatives and in spite of the pessimists who are kind of claiming that, the world is just getting worse and worse. In some ways, that maybe it is. But to me, there's never been a more exciting time because God is still on the move. He's still inspiring people by His Spirit to ask for bold things from God and to attempt some really bold things for God. And I'm just glad to be here in the New England region and to be a part of what God is doing.
Well, sir, we are glad to have you. You are a wonderful leader. You've been a very effective and excellent chairman of the board for the organization. And all the time that I've spent with you, in all honesty, and I'm not saying this because the cameras are here, have shown me a humble, servant-minded man of God. So I count it a privilege to have your friendship, and certainly a gift to have you with us at Vision New England and here in New England. And you make this trek down here from Albany for us, because that's not just exactly around the corner.
We're a couple hundred miles away,
Yeah.
but it's such a joy.
So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. God bless you.